The nation pauses to say farewell to Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Her strength, dignity and laughter are remembered in a moving funeral service. Flanked by his parents and sons, Charles weeps for his magical grandmother. Returning to Windsor, 1 million people line the route. Also today, in the Middle East, Israelis and Palestinians clash again. Good afternoon. The Queen Mother is on her final journey to the family tomb at St George's Chapel in Windsor. Her funeral service, which combined immense dignity and formality, took place at Westminster Abbey. In one of many moving tributes, the Archbishop of Canterbury likened her to the sun, bathing us all in her warm glow. Many heads of state joined royalty and hundreds of official mourners, while the streets outside were crowded with hundreds of thousands of people, all of whom observed a 2-minute silence as the service began. The Queen Mother will be laid to rest this afternoon beside her late husband, King George VI. Almost 1 million people lined the route of the funeral cortege from London to Windsor. Our royal correspondent Jenny Bond reports.
In the Abbey, where the young Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon was married almost 80 years ago, and where in 1937 she was crowned Queen Consort, the tenor bell tolled 101 times. Once for every year of a long life now ended. The crowds, 20 deep in places, who had waited patiently as they had for her lying in state, waited again, this time for a final farewell. One that will be conducted with the pageantry befitting the occasion. Queen Elizabeth's peers, kings and queens, princes and princesses from Europe and beyond came to mourn her passing, 25 of them in all. The Prime Minister, who summed up the Queen Mother last week as a woman who had loved her country and had been loved in return, was among the parliamentarians present and past who were gathered to pay final tribute. Australia's Prime Minister John Howard, one of many representatives from the Commonwealth. From the world of racing, the former commentator Sir Peter O'Sullivan. And at the Queen's invitation, Camilla Parker Bowles, her presence another clear signal that her relationship with Prince Charles is gaining official approval. Also invited, the Duchess of York, a rare appearance in royal circles. She did not, though, form part of the procession of the Queen Mother's royal relatives. Shortly after 11 o'clock, the Queen set out from Buckingham Palace. Today, not just Queen, but a daughter who has lost her mother and who just 2 months ago was mourning her sister. Her composure, though, reflected her wish, expressed yesterday, that this service should not be simply about sadness, but about thanksgiving for her mother's life and times. At Westminster Hall, 300 yards away, the Queen Mother's coffin was carried from the lying in state. Forming up to escort her once again, her son-in-law and the grandchildren and great-grandchildren she loved. William and Harry, their memories of her now on record. She was, they said, someone who inspired them. Prince Charles, still grief-stricken, who returned to his grandmother's coffin late last night for a final solitary vigil. And the Princess Royal, taking her place again with the male mourners.
No! God!
The massed pipes and drums of 13 regiments, a stirring echo of her Scottish roots, led the way. It was a procession marked by the order and dignity that were at the core of the Queen Mother's life. For the past 4 days, her coffin has been the focus of the gaze of 200,000 people, a show of affection that has touched the royal family. Today they claimed it back, and as they arrived at the great west door of the Abbey, the Queen's entreaty for this to be not just about sadness seemed lost on them. As the coffin was borne along the centre aisle, the congregation may have reflected on the poem chosen by the royal family for the cover of the Order of Service. Its opening lines, "You can shed tears that she is gone, or you can smile because she has lived." The bidding was written by the Dean of Westminster.
In gratitude, we bid farewell to a greatly loved Queen, for her grace, humanity and sympathy, for her courage in adversity, for the happiness she brought to so many, for her steadfast pilgrimage of faith, for her example of service, and for the duty which she rendered unflinchingly to her country. We thank and praise Almighty God.
This hymn, a particular favourite that was sung at the funeral of Princess Margaret 2 months ago. Today, a poignant link between mother and daughter. In his sermon, the Archbishop of Canterbury said the public response to the Queen Mother's death could not be explained simply by the great length of her life.
It has to do with her giving of herself so readily and openly. There was about her, in George Eliot's lovely phrase, the sweet presence of a good diffused. Like the sun, she bathed us in her warm glow. Now that the sun has set and the cool of the evening has come, some of the warmth we absorbed is flowing back towards her.
Her life, he said, had been characterized by strength, dignity and laughter.
For the book of Proverbs has more to say about a gracious woman we can summon now as we commend to her Heavenly Father his faithful servant Elizabeth, Queen, Queen Mother, Queen Mum, deeply loved and greatly missed. It simply says this of a woman of grace. Many have done excellently, but you exceed them all.
His words moved Prince Charles to the brink of tears. The last post sounded for a woman who had witnessed a century of bewildering change, but had refused to be bewildered. A staunch traditionalist to the end, she regarded change as anathema. She'd remained in tune with her great-grandchildren, even if she didn't always understand them. Her family remember her for the zest and laughter she brought into their lives. For many, she was a symbol of British determination and unity. And so to the final journey, back to Windsor, where she died 10 days ago. In life, she was credited with saving the monarchy after the abdication. In death, as thousands paid tribute to her, she may well have strengthened it still more. Jenny Bond, BBC News.
Accompanied by the bells of Westminster Abbey, the Queen Mother's final journey out of the nation's life began. Gracefully, movingly, finally, her coffin was conveyed past a silent, dignified public. At the Mall, that silence momentarily broken by the engines of a special flypast. 2 Spitfires and a Lancaster bomber, the Queen Mother's wartime role affectionately remembered. And all the while, the people, in their thousands. The cortege, followed by the Queen and other members of the royal family. Then it was through Wellington Arch, the procession winding its way under and past the great landmarks of London, the Queen Mother's farewell to the capital. Under a cascade of flowers, she was driven further and further west. Others chose polite applause on the road to Windsor, the small group of vehicles moving at a stately pace towards a journey of rest. And on into the crowded streets of Windsor itself, a town turned out in force to pay its last respects. The last chance for a public to see her coffin as she prepares to take her place next to her husband and her place in history. Duncan Kennedy, BBC News.
Thousands of people lined the streets of London in an impressive show of respect for the Queen Mother. Some had camped out in the streets overnight to be able to hear a relay of the service and to get a view of the funeral cortege. Our correspondent Robert Hall has been with the crowds.
Answering the call of the pipes, scrambling for position after many hours of anticipation, drawn together in this act of remembrance.
Really quiet for me. Okay, I've got to go to the side. Okay,
Every effort made to ensure that even the smallest will have a story to pass on.
I thought I was very lucky to be there because I knew that a very special woman was inside, and I was very sad that she died.
I felt more sad than I did when I watched it on telly, and it feels more sad when you actually see it in real life.
Some hurried to catch up with the cortege. Others unfolded their newspapers and followed the funeral service. The chatter of the crowds was hushed. Suddenly, they were there, inside the Abbey, as the choir's anthem echoed around Parliament Square. After 4 days in which hundreds of thousands had queued to pay their respects and witness history, these were perhaps the most intense moments.
It was deep emotion all the way through, all the way through. There are times when I can hardly hold back the tears.
My tummy turned, sort of thing. It just weird, like being in the heart of London, it was silent, and then for this coffin to go by, it was just really sad, really moving.
The Queen Mother's final journey has allowed thousands more to pay their respects. Behind her, she leaves new friendships and a shared recognition of her place in history. Robert Hall, BBC News, Westminster.
Throughout the length and breadth of Britain, people have shown their sympathy and respect for the Queen Mother by observing 2 minutes silence. Many shops and businesses were closed this morning. Here's Daniel Sanford.
The Mersey ferry at 11:30 this morning.
This is your captain speaking. Could all passengers now please observe the 2 minute silence for the Queen Mother? Thank you.
Two minutes silence for a life of over 100 years. The United Kingdom paused today to remember a queen who'd played a role in so many lives. An extra grandmother to generations of schoolchildren. And in the village where she grew up, bells to celebrate a long life. Daniel Sandford, BBC News.
And now a look at today's other news. Reports from the Middle East say there's been more fierce fighting in the West Bank. Israeli forces have made a partial withdrawal from the Palestinian territories. Overnight they left Tulkarm and Qalqilia, but they've also occupied one new town, Dora, near Hebron. The most intense clashes are in Jenin, where dozens of Palestinian gunmen are holed up in a refugee camp.
The Israeli army is suffering heavy casualties as it rushes to finish the offensive. With an American stopwatch ticking on this operation, troops are trying to hunt down the suicide bombers in days rather than weeks. These grainy pictures from the West Bank town of Qalqilia show the Israelis packing up, but they're determined to finish the job before they leave. There are mass arrests of Palestinian men and boys. Another suspect is taken away for interrogation. Away from the West Bank, sirens brought stillness to every Israeli for 2 minutes today to mark the Holocaust. At Yad Vashem, the national memorial, a solemn ceremony to remember the 6 million who died. Never again is an argument used repeatedly by Israeli spokesmen to justify what's happening now in the West Bank. The world stood by while Jews were slaughtered in the Holocaust. Today, the Israelis say they'll do whatever it takes to ensure the security of a Jewish state. A fresh Israeli incursion today, even as troops withdrew elsewhere. The Palestinians say the Holocaust was a European atrocity, which Arabs are being made to pay for. They say Israel's birth is their continuing tragedy. Paul Wood, BBC News, Jerusalem.
The fiercest fighting has been taking place in the refugee camp at Jenin. Our correspondent Jeremy Cook is at a position overlooking the town. Jeremy, we're getting reports that there have been fierce and heavy losses on both sides. Can you tell us more?
That's right, Anna. We're getting those reports here. We're a couple of miles away from Jenin, which is behind me across this open ground. Overnight, particularly intense fighting here. Israeli security sources are suggesting that the Palestinians may have lost something like 150 men killed over the past week or so of this offensive in this city. We are also now, though, getting some indications that the Israelis themselves are suffering casualties on a scale which we haven't seen before. Yesterday, it was confirmed that 9 of their soldiers have been killed in this operation. Overnight, again, intense fighting, and we are getting suggestions that the overnight number of Israeli soldiers killed could run into double figures. It's a big number from an army not used to taking those sort of hits, and it's the sort of number which can not only impact Israeli public opinion, but also drive Israeli government and indeed military policy.
Jeremy,
Anna.
thank you. Thank you. Back in Britain, more than 70 asylum seekers smuggled themselves illegally into Folkestone last night on a single freight train. It's believed they boarded in Milan. The freight company EWS has criticised security on the French side of the Channel. Kent police say 50 asylum seekers have been detained, but more than 20 are still at large. A 13-year-old girl is to appear in court accused of smuggling nearly £1 million worth of heroin into Britain. She was detained at Manchester Airport yesterday after arriving on a flight from Pakistan. She's now in the care of the social services in Bradford, where she says she has family. Bathers have been told not to swim in the sea off a West Wales beach after 6 children were treated for suspected chemical burns. Urgent investigations are being carried out to establish the cause of the incident near Llanelli, and the children are being treated at a nearby hospital.
With children in many parts of the country still on their Easter break, Carmarthenshire Council has been forced to make the sea off this beach a no-go area. The swift action was taken after a group of 6 local kids who had been playing in the water complained of feeling itchy. All developed rashes, some even came up in blisters.
We came out and it was stinging, and then we had a rash. And then we went home and then we put cold water in there and we washed their legs.
They came up to the car crying, red rashed all over them, moaning that they were really burning.
Samples of seawater have been taken, and although there are some industries in the area, council officials say it's too early yet to say what was responsible for the burns.
The doctors, the clinicians, they've diagnosed suspected chemical burns. We're looking at that as a cause. We're also looking at algae together with the possibility of jellyfish.
The children affected have been treated in hospital. Others, however keen to finish off the Easter break, are being kept out of the water. Willow Davis, BBC News.
And now more on today's main story. The Queen Mother's coffin has been taken to Windsor, where she will be buried this afternoon alongside her late husband. Police have just said that more than 1 million people lined the route of the funeral cortege from London to Windsor. It follows a funeral service of immense dignity at Westminster Abbey, where the Archbishop of Canterbury likened the Queen Mother to the sun, bathing us all in her warm glow. Our royal correspondent Jenny Bond is outside Westminster Abbey and Brian Hanrahan is at Windsor. First, Jenny. Jenny, the Archbishop of Canterbury referred during the funeral service to the Queen Mother's maternal strength. Do you think that's going to be our abiding memory of her?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt he was referring to the extraordinary position she did hold in the nation's affections. To all the people who came here, still many here, she was simply the Queen Mum. She had a very paradoxical role, I think. She was regarded perhaps as the grandest of the royals and yet the most approachable. She was regarded as the most dignified lady, which indeed she was, but we now know from her great-grandchildren that she could imitate Ali G. Prince Andrew, over the last few days, has told her of the unique relationship she had with each of her grandchildren. She clearly had a pivotal role in that family. And for Prince Charles, who looked distraught today once again at his loss, she was, of course, in his own words, simply everything. And tonight he's flying up to Scotland to be at her former home, Burke Hall on the Balmoral estate, to be alone with his thoughts.
Jenny, thank you very much. And now we go to Brian Hanrahan, who's at Windsor Castle. Brian, the Queen Mother's coffin has arrived there. Take us through the events of this afternoon.
Well, at the moment, probably this is very private, and there's been a very clear distinction made between the public and the private side of this funeral service. We're now into the private family part, and we believe what's happening is that the Dean of Windsor is saying a few prayers, just a quiet reception, really, for the coffin, and after that it will wait in the chapel of St George's until the rest of the royal family arrive. The Queen is still at Buckingham Palace and will be returning here later today. And when the families are assembled, both the royal family and the Bowes-Lyon family, there will then be a totally private interment inside the chapel in the vault next to her husband, King George VI. And that will end with the final symbolic snapping of the staff of office, the wand of the Queen's Great Chamberlain, to indicate that with this service to his employer, he no longer has any more duties to perform.
Brian, thank you very much. And now we go over to Philip Avery for the weather. Philip.
And I thank you very much indeed. I'm very pleased indeed that it did stay dry for the people out of doors in London through the past few hours. And indeed, over the next couple of days, we'll see a lot of fine and dry weather across many parts of England and Wales, at least till Friday or so. But you will see more cloud, more rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland before then, and a little bit of nighttime frost and fog to watch out for as well. As we zoom our way in towards the British Isles, you can see there's a fair bit of cloud just down the eastern side of England at the moment, and the cloud gathering all the while across this northwestern corner of Scotland. That will produce rain of nuisance value rather than anything else over the next few hours. But come away towards the southwest, that's where you see the very best of the sunshine today. More cloud, as I say, towards the east, and it might just produce the odd shower down towards the Kent coast or across the coast of East Anglia, and there'll still be quite a stiff breeze there, making it feel pretty cool. And you have to come away towards the west to see the very best of the temperatures through today. Could top out around about 14 or 15. Now overnight we'll just organise that rainfall a bit more across the northern half of Scotland, maybe flirting with the north of Northern Ireland. Elsewhere though, well, the temperatures may just drop off, getting down towards frost values if you're very prone across the Welsh borders and maybe in towards the Midlands as well. Tomorrow we'll keep that cloud and rain theme going across the north of Scotland, the far north of Northern Ireland. And elsewhere, well, once we get rid of the early morning mist and fog again in the Welsh Marches and the Midlands, perhaps the northeast of England, a dry and fine day, but not feeling overly warm yet again through East Anglia and the southeast because of the strength of the northeasterly breeze. Temperatures around about 11 or 12. That front really doesn't move very far as we move on through Thursday and only really starts to come south as we move on through the day on Friday, Anna.
Thank you, Philip. And at 2:25 our main story, the funeral of the Queen Mother, has taken place in a simple, moving and dignified ceremony at Westminster Abbey. More than 1 million people lined the route of the funeral cortege from London to Windsor Castle, where the Queen Mother will be laid to rest next to her late husband. We leave you today with some of the memorable images of the day.